Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Looking for Love in All the Wrong Dust Jackets, a show where three gals who know each other from college decide what if we got together and talked about some of our favorite romance books, romance shows, favorite romance tropes. I'm Liz.
And I'm Danny.
I'm Wiggles.
And welcome to the show. Folks, today we are going to be talking about Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. But before we get into that, I'm going to just say, obviously disclaimers from the book, but just, hey, we're a little rough around the edges. I'm going to swear. Danny's going to swear. Wiggles is going to swear.
Fuck yeah, we are.
Yep, there you go. And we're talking about romance books, so there's also going to be some sexy time talk. So just be prepared for all that. If you're not here for that, I understand. And we'll say bye-bye.
Yes.
Okay, you've had a chance to leave. Goodbye. Now, time for the sexy times.
Okay, so before we get into the sexy times, though, we need to talk about other sexy time things. Or maybe not sexy time things. What are you reading? What are you watching? What are you consuming? What are you doing in your day-to-day beyond this book?
Well, let's see. I am a true crime junkie. You know how I am.
Yeah.
And so I watched a really good documentary series on, I believe it was Discovery Plus today, about the whole LDS Church, Warren Jeffs thing. And it's following one of his wives that escaped.
Oh, I mean, that sounds very interesting and also angry.
Yes.
I thought you were going to talk about the, Keep Sweet Netflix one.
Yeah, the sweet... Keep Sweet, Pray, and Obey. That one is very good, too, but this is on Discovery Plus, and it is literally the story about, how it's his 65th wife. How she...
It's just a disgusting thing to even say out loud.
I know. It's so gross. How she escaped, how she kind of became... How she came to be married to him. Like, her sister was married to his father. Her older sister was, and everything, and it was really interesting. I did not know this. Those motherfuckers had an isolation compound in South Dakota.
Oh.
Really?
Yes, West River.
Oh.
I mean, of course it would have to be West
Yeah.
River. That kind of shit would never happen East River, but...
Like, she was kept there for 2 years after she tried to get away. Or she angered him at one point, so he sent her to there, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Well, and the thing about West River, South Dakota is depending where you are, you can't get anywhere else.
Yep.
No, it's isolation. Yeah.
It's isolation set. They had a fucking guard tower.
Oh my God.
It looks like one of the ranger towers in the Black Hills.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God. Apparently she tried to get away from there 10 separate times.
Yeah.
And was brought back.
That's horrific.
Every single time. And then they brought her back down to Texas and to be guarded by her brother. And then she finally got away at that point.
Ugh.
Yeah. Ugh.
So,
but it was very good.
I do want to clarify when we were talking about 65 wives and we went, oh my God, that's disgusting. And it is. We're not in a we are against polyamory kind of way.
No.
If you want to have multiple partners because everybody's cool and chill and mature about
it's
it,
fucking
great.
consensual.
Yes,
There's a
exactly.
big difference there.
And educated.
And they're not children.
Yeah.
Also, when she married him, he was in his 50s and she was 18 and 2 weeks.
Nope. I do want to say something. If you're listening to us right now and you're maybe religious or so far into your religion that you're maybe getting upset with some of the things we say, I can't imagine you'd still be listening to us after our intro, but if you are, I just want to point out that there's a lot of resources for you to educate yourself on, and I don't have them off the top of my head on maybe why we're saying some of the things we are. So,
Also, don't come at us. We don't have anything against Mormonism. We don't have anything against Christianity. This is the
Extremist.
cult that came from Mormonism.
Yeah.
Because mainstream Mormonism does not allow polygamy. It's the fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ. Yeah. And it was...
hope everybody enjoyed that little bit of fucked dose of reality.
Sorry, I know that
No.
is not what you came for.
I
It was
asked you a
just what I was
question of
watching.
what you were watching, and you told me, and I was like, tell me more.
Yeah, because we all three of us really like true crime stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I went down a rabbit hole today and watched. It's 3 episodes long, but they're each an hour.
Huh.
And it's her talking about her life and everything. But yes, sorry, I know that is not at all the theme of our podcast, but it was fascinating, and I do have a thing for cults, learning about them, so that I don't end up in one.
Mm-hmm. Wiggles, what is on your media choice?
I just recently read The Kiss Quotient, and I'm obsessed. I think I've very thoroughly convinced the other two that we're going to read it come hell or high water.
I mean, she
So-
literally freaked out in our group chat and was like, I'm broken, and it needs to happen, and this. And we're just like, okay. Like, Sure.
It's consumed my waking thoughts for quite a bit. I'm not well.
you keep saying that. I'm like, do I want to not be well, Wiggles?
I think
I don't know if you will be unwell. I just know I'm not I'm not well. I'm flustered. I'm flushed. I'm not. I'm disappointed knowing for a fact that I will never meet a Michael. Which is you'll find out. And yeah, so that's put that in your TBR. Okay.
All right. What about you?
Kiss Quotient.
What about you, Lizard?
Oh, okay. So I read The Sea Witch, a Little Mermaid retelling by Rebecca F. Kennedy. It was one of those books where, like, the plot and the story beats were really good. I was like, okay, I like this beat. I like the thing you're going for, but the actual writing style I couldn't get behind. Not that it was bad. I was just like, you're not developing your characters enough. But if you like the idea of, instead of Ursula being her aunt, I believe is how it is, instead it's just her dad's old best friend and a dude. Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Kind of good. And then I'm also in the middle of reading What Lies Beyond the Veil by Harper L. Woods, because it came on my TikTok that said where the villain gets the girl, and I was like, okay, I want to know.
That's the same. I want to read. There's a book that I saw on TikTok that is called Hooked, and I'm very interested in it, and I think I'm going to make these bitches read it. Because it is also the villain gets its Captain Hook.
I've been into villain stories lately, as you can tell.
I usually am. But I like the darker side of my romance novels.
The problem that I have with villain stories is, like, for the longest time they were very, like, Omega Universe Alpha, and I'm like, meh, meh.
I like it like a good alpha book, but I hate the Omegaverse.
Yeah.
Like, it weirds me out. There's something about it that I'm just like, it turns me off instantly. I'm like, no.
I don't like anything that says that all women are the submissive breed. Anything that's that, I'm like immediately grossed out. Anywho, let's talk about today's book, and so this was my recommendation. I hadn't read it, so it wasn't like a recommendation as in I was like, I read this book and I highly recommend it, because I didn't know what I was getting into quite either. I had read The Love Hypothesis, and I did really like The Love Hypothesis, so I was like, hey, this one's brand new, or brand new-ish. It came out in, I think, like August 2022. So I was like, we should check this one out since it's the newer one. So this is Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. A little quick author rundown just to give you some info about her, since we do try to do that when we can get information. Ali Hazelwood is a pen name for an Italian neuroscience professor. We got another big brain on big brain here.
All right, well, that makes a lot of sense. There was a lot of...
Yeah, there's a lot of moments in the book where I'm like, the author must be a scientist, because how the fuck would you know any of this shit?
Right? You're like, you have to work in academia to know this shit. Like, I was like, oh, man, you know what you're talking about.
Even just some of the bureaucracy of how things work.
Yes.
Let me tell you, and we're going to get into it, as somebody who's in corporate America, I was triggered. But we'll get into it after your author rundown.
Yes. Also, I will say, like, if all of her books do kind of circle around STEM, so if you do like the STEM and academia factor, I do highly suggest you go back, or not go back, but you take a look at The Love Hypothesis. They are not sequential in any way, shape, or form. You can read them in any order. And they're not related to one another. So, unlike... She also wrote a series of novellas called Under One Roof, Stuck With You, and Below Zero. These came out in a book that just recently called Loath to Love You in 2003. So all under one, like, you can buy like the one book rather than buying each individual novella. So that's pretty cool. She was raised in Italy and then lived in Japan and Germany. So she kind of like moved around a lot and then eventually came to the United States to get her PhD in neuroscience, and is also currently working as like a full-time professor, priority on studying like brain stimulation and cognitive neuroscience, which definitely plays into this book.
Absolutely.
So, a couple of other things. I listened to an interview she did on another podcast, one that I like, and I've kind of talked about with Danny and Liz before, learning the tropes. So if you are looking for even more romantic book content, I would suggest checking them out. And she was saying that she started writing fan fiction as like a way to get through her PhD. I'm obviously paraphrasing here. And from writing her fan fiction, that's actually where she gets a lot of her work that she's expanded into for her books. Especially if you look at The Love Hypothesis, she's very open and honest about the fact that is Adam Driver in the Star Wars universe. So,
oh, really, you say?
Mm-hmm. Wink, wink, Danny.
I do have a giant crush on Kylo Ren. Mm-hmm. What can I say? I like a bad boy.
Yeah. I see we're going back to the villain trope again.
Yeah.
Now read both The Love Hypothesis and Love on the Brain. I do think that Danny especially you would be more inclined to The Love Hypothesis, just knowing your reading style. But
are you saying that there's more sex in that one?
No. Oh. There's actually more sex in this one.
Well, what the fuck?
Damn it.
But, because, in another article that I found, apparently, like, in order to save room, in this article from The Tempest, she says that she had to cut a lot of sex scenes that she didn't want to cut from The Love Hypothesis. But there's a lot more sexual tension, and also just like, I don't know.
I do like sexual tension.
Yeah, I don't know. It just it's a little bit of a different vibe. We can talk more about that. That's not the book we're talking about today. Today we're talking about The Love Hypothesis.
No,
the Love on the Brain.
Love on the Brain.
Love on the
Love Hypothesis.
Oh my god.
Damn it, Wiggs. Get your shit together.
Love on the brain.
Wiggles, did you have a synopsis for this?
Sorry, Rihanna. Oh, sure.
Okay.
I can do that.
Right.
Well, let's go with this. So, imagine, if you will, that you're a super, super smart, crazy neuroscience person, and your entire life, you've been working towards a series of goals, and then you get get in a position where, like, your life just isn't going the way you want. But then, out of nowhere, NASA's like, by the way, bitch, we want you. And she's like, yeah, this is going to be great. But then you got to work with your mortal fucking enemy. And you're like, no. And she goes anyway. And then a cat tries to kill you. But then you spend your entire time, like, being like, no, but I want this cat. I'm going to adopt this cat, and I'm going to love this cat. But that's not the plot. It's just an important thing to know. So then you're, like, working with this guy, and he's a total asshole, and is up in your biz, and is not helpful, and is undermining your authority. But psych! It turns out all of the problems that you've been having are a series of complications that just don't make any sense and aren't his fault. And actually, he really does want to work with you. And there's some weird, like, vibes coming there, and you kind of like them. And as you, like, build along and you start working on this special NASA science helmet, you're like, whoa, Green Eyes, you got good vibes going over there. And you're like, also, you got good vibes in bed. I like that. But then
we skipped to them going in bed together already.
Yeah, I'm.
She's doing a synopsis of the entire thing.
All right, keep going. I interrupted you. Keep going.
But then it turns out that your entire past is coming back to haunt you because all the crazy shit that happened in college is affecting your entire potential relationship. Will you be able to survive it? Will you be able to make a NASA helmet that astronauts can survive? Find out in Love on the Brain.
Well, the
You
NASA...
really went very Dragon Ball Z at the end there. I liked it.
I did. I loved the anime, like... Will Goku survive his first encounter with Cell in his final form?
Last time on Dragon Ball Z.
So the NASA doesn't need them to make the helmet because astronauts can't survive. It's to help them increase their, like, cognitive, like, reaction time, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but, like, you still need to make a helmet that can...
Well, yeah,
That's not going to kill them.
Increase their cognitive reaction time that won't kill them.
Yeah.
And give them seizures, as it turns out.
Yeah. But before we get to the seizures, what do you guys think about B? What did you think of her as our heroine, our love interest, our... I don't know.
I like her mannerisms a lot.
What a great fucking, like, start. I like her mannerisms.
Well, like, just the way she puts things and the way she's funny as fuck sometimes. You're just like, oh, okay. Like, when they discover her, like, her grad student bumping uglies with another girl on the team on her desk in NASA, which is just not the appropriate place for that situation. And she's just like, when the authorities are there, like when the people that are in charge are there, she's like, yeah, don't do that. And then afterwards she was like, oh, get it, girl. Like,
yeah. And my again, corporate America brain went off of, like, don't do that ever. That's bad. That's how you get fired from jobs, and then you don't get more jobs because they tell people, don't ever do that.
Yeah, no, I was the same, but it was just like, oh my god, why would they do this? And, like, I knew those two were going to end up bumping uglies, let's be honest.
Yeah, it totally gave the vibe from the beginning. So her assistant and Kaylee, I believe is her name.
Yeah, Kaylee.
Who is the project manager on the project. They did the
project manager on the project.
I'll tell you what. Yeah.
The project is called Blink.
Blink.
Blink and you might miss it.
Yeah, they decide to do the nasty. But it totally made sense because, like, the entire time her assistant was like, I don't like this girl. I don't want her around me. And just being very, like, for no reason aggressive. And I'm like, I see what's happening.
You have a thing.
I understand.
They're also extremely opposites.
Yeah.
In personality. Her, like, her assistant is very goth. They're both extremely intelligent women. But her assistant is very goth, very macabre in her decision making. She constantly is bringing up, like, random statistics about, like, spiders and shit. And she'll just say it randomly and she's like, did you know this? And B's like, well, now I do. you know, and so there's that. And then Kaylee
She's Elle Woods.
she's Elle Woods.
Yeah.
She's extremely intelligent, but she is glitters and pink and sparkles and unicorns.
Think that they're definitely put in the book to be like, hey, B, have you attempted to pull your head out of your ass?
Oh, yeah, they're definitely meant to be, like, a foil is not the right word, but, you know, like, an example for B to be like, oh, yeah.
Oh, it doesn't have to be this way.
Well, because B and... So for context, right, like, B and Levi went to grad school together, and the entire time Levi was just, like, grumpy and, like, pissy at her. And,
He would never, like, look at her.
yeah, and didn't want to be around her, didn't want to talk to her, and B thought, like, oh, he hates me. And then in reality, as the viewers, or in this case the readers, know from day one, it was because he was, like,
Madly fucking in love with
yeah,
her.
massive crush, and was just like, I can't be around her because she is currently dating someone else.
Engaged to somebody else.
Yeah, eventually
Well-
engaged to somebody else who's a yuck.
And that's like a really big sticking point. And I don't know if we want to talk about
Do it because I have things to
that
say.
this early, but I have so many things to say about
Same
that.
I have things to say.
Oh, let's
Just get in there.
get into it. Let's just get right into it right away.
Get up in there.
So, I was terrified that I was going to hate him and he was going to be completely irredeemable because I don't give a fuck if you're in love with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So,
Eat shit and
are you talking
Go ahead.
about what he did in grad school, or are you talking about what he did at NASA?
both.
So I actually was about to text you. I was on like page fucking 70 of this book, and I was like, Wiggles, if this doesn't turn around, I will not be finishing this.
I will
Right?
throw this book across the fucking room, and I don't care.
I literally was like, I don't know if I can keep reading this because, so he, in B's eyes, her project is getting sabotaged.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's not getting invited to meetings. She's not getting documents she's supposed to get. Her equipment isn't showing up.
He's not emailing her back.
Right.
Yes.
And we later find out the bad guy is, it's partly the bad guy just doing, and then partly NASA, because she doesn't technically work for NASA. She works for the NIH.
Yes.
Doesn't want the NIH on this project, so they're sabotaging her because of that. You know, fucking corporate politics, whatever. And I was just like, this book, I am trusting that this book is that they're not going to make Levi actually the one who did this, because if he is, there is nothing.
Oh yeah, no,
Nothing.
there would be no redeeming for him, because that is
I
her most
literally
important
was-
thing is her job. To her.
The same. I was having the same reaction where I was like, "Do I need to tell us to change books right now?"
Mm-hmm.
I was like, because I was reading it into it where I was like, "Oh no, oh what the fuck are we reading?"
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I was listening to it. Somebody is telling me this story, and I'm like, I haven't heard anything from the girls, so I'm assuming this gets turned around, because I was getting triggery.
I had a text fucking written in my phone, and I didn't send it because I was like, we have to
was
read this because we've
not
committed
ready.
to it.
Because like, okay, so let's start with the grad school stuff, because I feel like that it. Even though we find that information out later,
I don't think I still
feel
find
like
that
it builds.
redeemable, but
Well, okay, so here's my thing about the grad school stuff. The excuse that is given is that he is essentially told by the fiance, boyfriend, at whatever stage they were in the relationship, that B is uncomfortable being around him.
right.
Yes.
Right? And so he is actively doing everything in his power to not be around her because he doesn't want to make her uncomfortable.
Well, like, yeah, I get it. So from her perspective, she thinks he's doing everything because he hates her. And from his perspective, he's trying to do everything to not make her uncomfortable by not being around or by not engaging. And what's actually happening is he, being a early 20-something bro, and even says in the book he doesn't know how to communicate at that stage in his life, is making it worse.
Well, and to the point where she is not the only one that
Right.
thought he hated her.
Yeah.
Literally
Yes.
everyone that knew the both of them in grad school thought he despised her.
Yeah.
Yes. Arguably, my career is in the arts, but I definitely work in the STEM version of the
Yes.
arts.
Yes.
I frequently am the only woman in the, much like the description that B has in the where she's talking about like there's the bonus woman and you're like, thank God, right? Yes, there's another one. It is genuinely one of my fears that the way that he behaves is something that happens to me. And sometimes I have to sit there and question if it is. If something like that is the reason that somebody is treating me the way that I'm being treated, if that's the reason I'm being railroaded the way I am, you have these moments where you're like, it can't possibly be that you just fucking hate me. It can't be that you're threatened by me because I have no power in this situation. You have all the authority. Why are these things happening? Why are you acting this way? But you feel like you're crazy to suggest that something like that would be happening behind the scenes. This was really hard to read.
It was really hard to read.
So it triggered me a lot.
So from a person who's not in like academia or not in like government work or whatever in that kind of like sector, but in like true corporate America, as I was reading it, I was just like, I know that this shit has happened. Maybe not to this level, but like I know the fucking politics. I've had people take shit personally that they shouldn't. I've had people like, oh my God. And I literally was having a time.
Yeah. And I mean, I definitely feel it is a little less so in the Midwest because Midwest nice is a thing, but it still happens.
No. It happens worse. Because nobody wants to confront anybody in the Midwest. So it's all fucking behind each other's backs.
Right. So, and if you do say something, oh no, he would do that. He's the nicest guy. Right. He would never do that.
Okay, we're going down the rabbit hole that I will spend 3 hours down if we don't.
Fair enough.
Also, we could talk about this for ages. Sorry, go ahead, Danny.
There's a whole another podcast that's called People Bitching People Out in Corporate America that I would run.
So one thing that really bothered me, so at one point she runs into her dickface ex-fiance and her ex-best friend who he cheated on her with. And one thing that kind of irritates me is like she like traps her in the bathroom. The ex-best friend traps B in the bathroom and like profusely apologizes and everything, which I understand, but like she actually kind of forgives her and starts like slowly starting to have like a text conversation with her again. And like I didn't like that at all.
So actually I wasn't as upset about them kind of like getting back together, like her and her best friend, because it wasn't, I think I would have been upset if it was just like a big love fest, but it was kind of that like, all right, we'll try and
still
see.
Distrustful and everything, and I get that. It irked me. I'm like, no, that bitch would never be spoken to again by me. Not like, it's one thing if it's your friend, but that was literally like her ride or die best friend. And I'm like, I just don't think I'd ever be able to trust her again. But I'm a bitter human.
Well, I do think this book, like one of the underlying themes, you know, if we were back in like language arts class in high school, would be perspective, right? Because like this whole book is about different people's perspectives on situations, and specifically Annie's, right? Annie, fuck. Her whole thing is just that she saw B as like this perfect person who just had everything, and she didn't understand how she could get that, and she made the really big mistake of being like, well, if I pretend to be here for a moment with Tim, will that do it?
That's such a weird thing, though.
It's
like, I guess I think I don't.
I get it.
I don't think that it doesn't. Yeah, I don't think that it's not true. My thing is that's not enough for me to forgive you.
Yeah. No. But I think that's the thing is she didn't forgive her. She just opened the door a little bit, like, and just allowed that because it, you know, it'd been I don't remember 10 years, and said, well, maybe we can at least talk.
Yeah. Well, and Annie did say that she was like, I was hoping that like because she was supposed to go to the same place as them for work and everything after they graduated, because this happened like right before they graduated.
Yeah.
And so they were all supposed to start work in the fall at this certain company, and B didn't end up going. Because why the fuck would she?
Yeah, why would you go where your ex-fiance and your ex-best friend are going and then work with them?
Yeah, no, that'd be torture. But I don't understand why Annie thought she would show up. Because she said that
Because sometimes you just get so delusional on hope, right? Like you just think and really hope that that person will be there. And then when they're not, you spiral into a depression, which is what happened to her.
Yeah. Like, I
Well, I think that human beings in general are always hoping for consequences to not come through.
Yep.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like that's what I think it always boils down to, and that's throughout this book.
Yeah.
Ultimately is a theme as well. Like, are just people hoping against hope that consequences won't come through. And it's in big things and it's in little things. It's stuff like her assistant hoping that enough will be done that she doesn't have to worry about the GRE's tests. It's stuff like Levi hoping that the consequences of how he behaved in college isn't going to affect how him and B interact with each other at their work. It's like, it's all these people doing the most human thing, which is just hoping that they can move forward without ever actually having done the work to undo the things that they've done.
Yeah. I would like to take a hard shift in topic, if we're okay with that, because you mentioned something that I need to talk about, which is the GREs.
Fuck the GREs.
Fuck the GREs. Now, I have never taken it. I put that caveat out there. I was fortunate enough that my grad program with what I had under my belt at that point in time did not require me to take the GREs. Wiggles, did you have to take the GRE?
No, most I shouldn't say most, but a lot of arts programs don't require the GRE.
Sure, because they're judging you based on other things.
Yeah, they're judging you on, like, do you have the artistic style that we're gonna like you on? And so they can objectively throw you out because they don't like your. The first time I applied to grad school, they didn't like my pencil strokes when I was drawing.
The fuck you say?
They said I wasn't going to be able to keep up with the drawing classes. Anyway,
Academia is
I'm
fucking
kind
bullshit.
of glad I didn't finish college.
grad school is. This is a PSA to anybody who's thinking about going to grad school. Unless you want to teach, don't. Unless you need an advanced degree for the thing you want to do, don't.
I will say, as somebody who has a master's degree, it didn't teach me anything. 100% it didn't teach me anything. I got it for the piece of paper, and I'm still paying it off.
And it's just a piece of paper that says you know how to do the thing. In most cases, maybe you'll learn a few things. You'll pick up a few things in grad school that you didn't know before. But basically, it's a glorified piece of paper that confirms that you know the things that you already knew before.
Yeah. I will say, also, if you're considering like a trade school or something, good for you. If you're considering going into a certain line of work that you don't have to go with that, also good for you. Because so I did go to college for a couple of years, but I did drop out. My brother has a teaching degree. Guess what?
He doesn't teach.
He doesn't teach, and we actually have the same exact fucking job. We work for the same company.
Yeah.
My current job is in academia. I don't know a single person who I've conversed with that talks about their grad school and isn't traumatized from it.
I mean, I'll tell you that I wasn't traumatized, but I also did it all online and just knew that the whole point of doing it was the piece of paper. Like, some classes I took were very educational, and I actually enjoyed the material. Some classes I took, I'm like, okay, the whole point of me paying hundreds of dollars is to take 3 tests and get in, and just, that's the end of it.
Yep.
If you want to ask me about networking, don't, because I don't remember a shit about that class.
Just saying, I am completely paid off on the student loans that I did have.
That is fucking nice.
Yep. I have been for like 2 years now.
Fuck, you want to pay mine off?
No. Now, my credit card debt. It's fine. I'm getting there.
When I paid off my credit card debt, that was me paying off my grad program. So I have my grad program paid off. I do not have my undergrad paid off.
I have undergrad paid off, but not grad.
Mostly because at this point, those undergrad payments are between Joe Biden and God. Okay.
Yeah, that's where I'm sitting. I'm like, we can cut this out, or
Should we go back to the romance?
Maybe we should. It's safer there.
I don't know.
Kind of.
I don't know about that.
Well, you know we're gonna vent all fucking night if we don't.
So
my
what did you guys? Well,
God.
what did you guys think of Levi? Our masculine bro meet. Well, he's not a bro. He's just our dude. He's our sexy man.
He was fine.
I will
He
say
was
that the rescue was hot. Like the like going back to like thinking about his like thigh. I was like, I
thought you were talking about when he like saved her from the graveyard. Because in my head, I was like,
No, that
this is
wasn't
the
hot.
biggest Wiggles move I've ever read in a book.
It really was.
Over Bridgerton, I was like, did Wiggles write this about herself? Especially as somebody who literally used to go running in a graveyard, Wiggles.
Right? I was like, bitch.
So,
Did you follow me? Like what?
so for those of you who haven't read the book yet, spoiler alert.
If you
she
haven't read the
goes-
book, what are you doing here? You're
Well-
gonna like hear about everything about the book.
We've already ruined
Yeah,
it.
That's true.
but she goes running in a graveyard, and she's trying to do a couch to 5K, which by the way, I also have that app, so I felt a little triggered on that one.
It's a real app.
It is a real app, yeah.
It is a real app, yeah.
You can even have, like, you can pick a certain trainer on the app. Mine is a zombie. She goes running in the cemetery, and she's trying to do the couch to 5K. She makes it about 3 minutes running, and then, like, flattens herself on a grave, and is laying there for a while. Well, in the process of her laying there trying to, like, not die, the cemetery closes. And so they lock her in.
Who the fuck is locking the cemetery without checking if anybody's there?
Very good question. And her phone is dying, and so she like tries to call her assistant, and she's not answering. And so her only option, because she's also in a new town, she's supposed to be living in Houston for like 3 months.
3 months.
During this project, so it's like the second day she's there too.
Yeah.
And so the only option she has for somebody that she has a phone number for is Levi. Yeah, it is the most Wiggles thing I have ever read in a book, though, is getting locked in the fucking
100%.
cemetery
Like,
at
Here's
7 o'clock at
the
night.
thing that's least
100%.
believable though is like it would have taken literally every nerve in my body for you to convince me that bro was gonna catch me.
oh yeah.
Because she's
yeah.
a skinny bitch and I ain't. And I would have been like, no, you're going to have to find another way to get me over this fucking
I
gate.
also think-
You're not going to catch
I
me.
also think there's
no
no way
way.
you would have cracked as early as she did and called for help. Like, you would have been there a solid hour and a half.
That the same could be said for all three of us.
I would have gotten
no,
out.
I
I
would-
would have busted my way out.
I would have climbed that
I would have
motherfucker.
climbed
I
that
would've
motherfucking
climbed.
fence too. Like I would have
Before I asked for help, 100%. I would have busted my ass at least 7 times trying to climb that fence, cried angry tears, cleaned myself up, and then finally I would have been like, I've got 1% battery life. Get your bitch ass over here.
I'd be the bitch like trying to push my way through the fence, like folding a boob in.
I was literally about to say, Danny, those tatas ain't going through no fence.
I will make them.
One boob at a
One
time.
boob at a time. Just like fold it down, smushed it in, hike her up. I know how to deal with these fuckers. I've had them for a very long time.
Tits and ass.
Oh my
tits,
God.
tits and ass.
It's in there.
That is the only problem is though I could probably deal with my titties. I also
Caboose.
have dead ass.
Look, you just got to
I
be
got them
flat
hips,
chested and flat
them
ass. Like
birthing
me.
hips.
You're not flat chested.
Yeah, I am. Well, I guess I'm technically a B cup, but that does not relevant.
Also, I like your booty. I've squeezed it before.
Look, working in an office, man, has really done a number on my caboose.
I mean, I eat lots of things I shouldn't, so that's why I have the ass I do. Also, I had a
Lots of
child.
things I shouldn't, and I have to squat a lot for my job, so my butt is simultaneously big and flat. So it's
You got that big flat
Not
ass.
great.
I'll see you.
big flat ass. it's what it gets the people going somewhere
The
else,
milkshake that brings the boys to the yard.
Yes.
someone else's yard.
I think you broke Liz.
speed of the response.
We are squirrely tonight.
Oh my god.
Okay, so
No, but it's
no, go ahead.
one of the things that I found weird though is that they then bond over like, you're vegan, I'm vegan. I guess we're soulmates.
Right. There is that. Well, I mean, they bond over their love of movies, too, because they're both obsessed with Star Wars. And
Look,
they love cats.
I need to have a little bit of a side.
Okay.
They mention a lot of things that they're like, only in Star Wars, only in Star Wars. And I'm like, look, that's fine. Nothing against Star Wars. But don't you motherfucking say only in Star Wars as Star Trek exists.
Correct.
Fucking.
Liz is a Trekkie.
I have Klingon tattooed on myself. Straight up.
Also true. Yes.
Okay, I'm back. The rage has been, like, squashed. We're talking about the wrong thing. This book. Jesus Christ.
All right. Bringing it in.
So I have to say this. I don't think I liked Levi. And here's the thing. It's not that I didn't like Levi. It's that, like, I didn't get any, like, butterflies.
Same.
No butterflies in this book.
I was kind of like, he's fine.
I agree that he was not as powerful of a, like, romantic lead as I was hoping for. Like, especially coming off of the love hypothesis. I was, like, constantly having heart palpitations off of the other guy in that one. And so there was just sort of this, like, and I think that part of the reason that there was no, like, will they, won't they, because it felt like a foregone conclusion. You didn't have to be a literary genius to figure out that, like, something we haven't talked about yet is that their Twitter handles.
Yeah, they've
right?
been great friends on Twitter for years.
Right. Yes. And so it felt very much like a foregone conclusion that they were going to figure out that those Twitter handles were each other. And so he would, like, you already knew from the jump that he was already in love with her. You already knew from the jump that, like, there was a part of her that was in love with a part of him. Like,
Well,
it was.
So what did you guys think of the Twitter friendship? So, right, she has a really popular Twitter account and he has a popular Twitter account, and they both talk about, like, science, academia, STEM, and they became friends through that on Twitter, but only knowing each other through their Twitter handles. So we as the audience know it's those two. I mean, you know.
Yeah, it's really obvious. You're like, okay, yeah.
Right. But obviously they have no fucking clue. What did you guys think of that plot device?
It was a little obvious for me. I'm not saying that I didn't enjoy, like, I liked the little friendship they had with it. I liked the idea that she just randomly made this what would Marie Curie do was her Twitter handle. And it's basically bitching about the fact that in STEM, women have to work so much harder, not necessarily work so much harder, but women get overlooked in STEM a lot. And it was basically stating that, you know, I wonder what Marie would think about this, and I wonder what she would think about this. And that's why she got so popular, because there were a lot of women that do work in the STEM fields and understand the frustration. And it was a way to basically scream into the void, too.
I think the thing that I didn't like about it is it didn't have a good enough conclusion for me. Because when she finally found out, they were already in their fuck buddy semi-relationship thing. And it was just kind of like, oh, also this.
Yeah.
Instead of being something that maybe they could have found out
better
sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they could have, like, talked about it and had moments of, like, okay, this is interesting.
With their, like, Twitter handles and stuff, it would have been really easy to have them figure it out earlier on. You know, they talk with each other enough on the Twitter handles that they kind of know each other's situations without knowing 100%. But they were together enough that, you know, they could have had somebody tweeting her pop up on her phone screen and vice versa and seen it. Like, it would have been a fairly easy thing for them to discover earlier on, which I think would have been a better device for her to realize that she really does like him.
Well, especially because throughout the book she talks about, like, this is one of the few people that actually gets it.
Well, can you imagine, too, if instead of them being oblivious, that either one or both of them knew the entire time, and they're they're sitting there responding to one another, being like, wink, wink.
I think you should go for it.
I'm telling you right now, right?
Yeah.
Like, imagine that they both don't think the other one knows, and they're trying, like, but they're like confessing all these feelings without ever having to like deal with the consequences, thinking that they're never gonna find out, right?
Yeah.
That would be really interesting.
Also, she
and
has a very unflattering nickname for him and uses it with him without him knowing. And, like, that was never really addressed.
The ward ass?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She calls him ward ass constantly and calls it to him without him knowing because she's talking to him on Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, that's never addressed. Like, he was like, hey, I would have been like, hey.
Will say one thing that I did really like when they did finally start kind of coupling up and becoming friendly, it was clear that they did have a lot in common. They did fit together as a couple, right? Like, they had similar humor. They did, you know, they did have the dietary thing. They did have a lot of nerd stuff that they shared in common. Like, they did both care strongly for advocating for social issues and political issues and things like that. And I did really enjoy that. Like, one of my favorite passages that I had to bookmark is when they were like making bets over where the folder was. You know, that bit where he's like, I know it's there. That was hilarious when he's like, okay, well, what should I do if I win? You know, whatever. And she's like, should I come over and express poor Schrodinger's anal glands?
See,
And he's like, no, Schrodinger's very, very private about his anal glands.
well, that was the thing. I think
that poor
I
cat.
think if there would have been more moments like that, I would have been more
Yes.
into it. I will say one of the things I didn't like, though, was a lot of, but however, it was very true to life, but a lot of Bee's professional issues, like with her team and all of that, Levi kind of had to step in and fix and like get them to pay attention to her and give her the time of day, which unfortunately is very true to life, is you need to have that one man in your corner so that you seem validated as a woman.
Yes.
But, you know, sometimes in your books, you don't want to read real life things.
Also very true.
You want to just pretend that you can solve it without a man coming in.
What does she call it? She calls it
oh, God, I don't remember what she calls it either.
sausage something. Sausage referencing.
Sausage referencing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I found delightful. I liked her terms for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was
Again,
funny.
not really something I usually want in my books. I'm not saying I didn't like the book. It's not something I normally want in my books because I don't want to deal with that stuff that we deal with in real life.
I read different books for that.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I read smut books for smut. Should we talk about smut?
Yeah.
There wasn't a ton.
There wasn't a lot, but there was a lot that was referenced to.
I don't know, like,
It was pretty vanilla.
it was pretty vanilla.
It was.
The only time that it wasn't vanilla is when she gave him a blowjob and like, he was asking to see, you know, the finish.
That made me want to throw the book across the room. I
Oh.
was like, absolutely not.
See, I like maybe reread that passage a couple of times, and I was like, okay, this is actually the one really dirty part of this.
I don't like.
No, I don't like it either, but it was like finally doing something.
The only one the one part that I was kind of like, oh, all right then, was he was like fucking her from behind, and then like pulled out and ate her out.
I do like that there's a lot of references to like, wait a minute, like he having to be like, I'm going to finish and I don't want to, so we're gonna pause or like stop and do something else. And I was like, that feels more real than I think a lot of times we get with like sex in either in books, which do have a tendency to reflect maybe porn a little bit more. So to have those actual moments of like sex not always being like feeling as scripted, it's just like, okay, we're going, and okay, we need to like pause,
to slow down a little bit because I'm gonna. Yep. No, I did like those moments.
Yeah.
So this is something that I think Ali Hazelwood does really well, is that she doesn't romanticize sex. Like, she doesn't turn it into something where like it's perfect just because the couple is trying to have sex and it's a romance novel. And so she like, one of the things that I liked is I was trying to figure out where it was, but like there's a part where like B is almost like trying to rush it, and he's like, no, you need to like, I'm trying to figure out where that is, but I think it's like early on.
I think it's like the
like
first
one of their
times
first
they
times.
have sex.
Yeah. And he like actively slows her down because he can tell that it doesn't feel good to her.
Yeah, it is the first time they have sex because he is, as it always is.
As it always is in these books, well endowed.
He is quite well endowed, and she hasn't had sex in a really long time, and neither has he, because he said that he hadn't had sex since he saw her.
Oh, I need to get into that later.
Yeah, that one weirded me out a bit, but
we'll talk about the smut, and then I need to talk about that.
But yeah, so I really appreciated that it was, you know, it wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
But it also, like, that she writes characters who care. To me, that is much more intriguing. Are characters that would actually take the time to, like, pay attention to their partner's needs. Because, like, how many times, whether it's on a podcast or TikTok or some other form of social media, do you have to, like, hear from women that they, like, let's be clear, it's not assault, it's not rape, but it's just not good.
Right.
It's painful. It's not, like, it's good you're not listening. You know, she wasn't ready. She didn't feel good about it, but she was, like, felt pressure to, like, deliver the goods, right?
Look, this is the second podcast I've identified that I'm going to start in this, which is how sex education is extremely important, because that's what it comes down to. Like, it's both.
And porn is not sex education.
Is not sex education. I have nothing against porn.
No.
Sex work is real work, 100%. I do have a problem against certain porn sites and, like, the way they portray very male, the male gaze type porn, but yeah, no, we need to really understand how sex works. And I did like that a lot in this book, of being like, we need to take pauses, we need to take moments, we need to, like, learn
need
each
to make
other.
sure you're actually ready for this. Yeah, because here's the thing, and I don't know how many men are going to be listening to this. If you're listening, men, women, it's harder to get us going. It takes more work. It does. Trust me, it's worth it. But it takes more work. We aren't instantly there. It doesn't work that way.
Well, everybody's different, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like, you need to learn
But
the other person.
the vast majority of women don't go from I made, well, okay, this kind of is a, like, hey, going back to why I really want us to read the Kiss Quotient. Like, I think that there are a lot more women that will read the Kiss Quotient regardless of whether or not they are artistic, and will very much relate to the heroine of that book and how she feels uncomfortable with sex. That is not the book we're talking about right now, obviously, but, like, I think that men are taught that they are just supposed to take the lead with sex, and I think that that's bullshit, because it's not as if men are really taught how to do well with sex. They're just taught that they should take the lead with sex. Based on what? What do you have as someone who's growing into becoming a man to have experience to know what to do? You don't. You don't. You don't have any more experience than a woman does. But women are told that they need to withhold, and are taught that their sexual behavior is something to be frowned upon.
Yeah. From
Birth, they are scolded away from their sexual activity. Yeah. And so how could that not come to a head and be negative? How could that not?
Well, and on top of it, as women, like, we also see a lot of in the media and whatever, that the man takes the lead and stuff. And I think we really just need to get to the point where we talk, like, sex is weird, man. You know what?
It is.
We need to start embracing that. It's not the, like, romantic shit we see on TV where it's like the lights dim and it's like music plays and everybody is like, ah. That's not. I mean, sex is fucking weird.
The second he enters her, she orgasms. That drives me
right,
nuts
like,
in movies.
Oh my!
It drives me nuts.
It happens in books too, and I'm just like, No.
No, that's not that unless you did a
Real good job leading up to that.
whole lot of foreplay. It ain't gonna happen.
Well, once again, I don't know how many men who like to sleep with women are going to be listening to this.
Okay, well then the women who are listening to this, talk.
Yes.
And I mean that, like, I'm dead
Talk.
serious. Like, in the middle of sex, fucking talk. Be like, yes, this, no, this, more this. Can we try this?
Yep.
Like,
You need to be able to communicate your needs to the partner you're with, and if you can't, then I don't think you should be with that partner.
Also, because sex is weird, there's going to be times where you laugh. Something dumb is going to happen,
yeah.
and just be like, okay, that was fucking dumb.
I
that thing happened.
I literally told Liz earlier that me and a partner knocked over a like cube shelf in my room, and he went ass over tea kettle over top of it, and then we got the church giggles because how could you not? Like, he literally has a scar on his face to this fucking day because of that, and it's funny.
Yeah.
Like, and also, girls, never be ashamed of the fact that motherfucker pushed air into you, and then it comes out pooted.
Look, that's just
That's
physics.
how it works.
It's just physics.
He pushed it in. It's got to come out.
I think this is a way also for us to segue back to you. Like, you wanted to talk about the fact that he says like he hasn't been with anyone since he was like, by the way, B's on the scene.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm gonna tangent a little bit if we do that though, like, because I'm gonna go down a darker path.
There's one thing I want to talk about before that, and I think that this will segue us into that pretty well. One of the things that like B has also not really been with partners. And I think that more and more we're like, our generation, the generation following us, we're deciding not to have a ton of partners. And that is not a critique on those who choose to have a ton of partners.
No, absolutely not.
No.
At all.
Get your thing, girl.
Let that go, get what you want to get, right?
Consensually.
Oh, obviously, everything.
Yeah, just do it safe.
Yes.
and safe.
Yeah. I think that for a long time, at least when we were growing up, there was a big stigma against that. Like this,
Oh my God,
this
yes.
choice of like, I'm not going to just sleep around because that's what people do.
Yeah.
And that was like the thing you were supposed to do. I really like that it's not, oh, woe is me. I don't have somebody to sleep around, to have sex with, to like get my rocks off. Like, it's just, hey, I would love to have somebody in my life that would make me happy, but that's not what I got right now.
I had some
I like that yeah. I got things that will take care of business.
Yeah.
Don't get right? But like, I like that the way that she writes it is that it's not this like pity fest. Like, for example, in opposition to something like Bridget Jones' Diary, right? Or How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, or this like My Best Friend's Wedding, like this desperation to have somebody in your life where you have, that was the narrative that was in the romantic comedy genre when we were coming of age. Like, that was what it is. You had to get yourself a man, snatch them up before they disappear. And it's like, instead, it's this realistic idea that it is better to find somebody that is worthy of your time and attention than to waste your time on people who are harmful.
100%.
And if you find, yes, and when she does get with Levi, she doesn't go into this with the expectation that this is going to be the one.
No.
Right?
She's just like, we're having fun, we're fucking, that's great.
Right. But that also doesn't diminish the fact that what they're having in that moment is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And so I just feel like Ali Hazelwood does a really good job of approaching when things are healthy, of making sure she clarifies that they are healthy.
yeah, I would agree with that. I do like too that I feel like in the last few years they've definitely moved away from the stupid double standard for women too. That was either you were a slut or you were a prude.
Right.
Oh,
Thank God.
Yes.
And because I hated that growing up. It's like, if you didn't do anything, oh, you're such a prude. But if you did anything, you're a fucking slut. Like, there was no way to deal with anything when we were teenagers. Like,
Yes.
It drove me insane. I'm like, oh, so I'm a slut or I'm a prude.
And no matter what you do, it's
Oh,
wrong.
yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely wrong. I will say though, like, I don't. So B does have some issues as far as like she has a lot of walls up, and she literally says that, and her sister says that in here. Now she has them up though because of what happened with Tim.
Yes.
Right. So her fiance, ex-fiance at this point, went around and fucked. It sounds like fucked everybody.
Yeah.
And then she found out, tried to break up with him, and then he, like, convinced her to stay with him.
He basically emotionally abused her into staying.
Yeah. And then kept doing it, and she finally broke up with him. And his whole thing was like, well, if you would have just, like, had sex more or enjoyed sex more or whatever, I wouldn't have had to go fuck other people.
Yeah, so, like, that's my thing with the, like, they haven't been with anyone else. I understand why B hasn't.
Yes. Hers makes sense.
But his does not.
And that's where we need to tangent into the part that I didn't like.
Like, that is extremely pathetic to me. I'm sorry. Like,
But,
he's so...
okay, he has, though. But...
No, he
and
literally says that he has not been with anybody since her.
No, that's not true.
What he says.
He was with... No. He was with the girl that... that is ultimately his best friend who died in
that
the...
was
before
before
he met B.
He broke up with her after he met B the first time.
Okay, actually, I retract my statement.
Yeah. When he met B, he was done looking for anybody else.
Yeah.
They literally haven't seen each other in 10 fucking years. And he hasn't been with anyone because
He's still like wrapped up
he's
in
like
this.
wrapped up for her.
Are you sure it's 10 years? I thought it was like 5 years.
I think it was...
I thought it was 5 years, too.
Maybe I'm wrong.
But still, here's the thing. The thing that I didn't like about it is it creates this narrative where if you love somebody from afar or whatever and you have a crush, if you just wait long enough, they'll come around.
It sets a terrible precedent.
Yeah.
Right.
And
that's
it
That's incel
Yeah.
adjacent behavior.
Yes.
and on top of it, it's like that's not emotionally healthy.
No,
like you
not
shouldn't
at all.
pine after somebody that you knew 5 years ago and you haven't interacted with since then to the point that it's like become consuming. Now we don't know everything with him as far as like, you know, maybe he just has been really wrapped up in his work and like everything that happened where his best friend died and he's been there to help kind of like raise his daughter in a way. But just the way it comes up, like I was so turned off in that moment of like, you haven't been with anybody, and that
It's
isn't
not healthy.
No,
it's
not
not
at
healthy
all.
And that isn't to say that if you go 5 years, 10 years, whatever, without a partner, that is unhealthy. It's not. If that is what you want and whatever, 100%.
Oh, yeah, no.
Go like 100%.
Do
but
your
like,
thing,
but
but-
don't do it because you're pining after somebody you knew 5 years ago and didn't even know that well.
Yeah. The only way I could maybe see this as being slightly okay, and still only slightly, is if he had known that the Twitter handle, what would Marie Curie do?
Oh yeah, if
Right.
that was the situation,
That
Yeah,
changes
still
it a little bit.
It's
because
still a
he
little
thought
creepy,
that
and-
she was married. Like he
Yeah.
didn't know that she broke up with Tim.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing. He thought she was married the entire time until she comes back. And so,
Yes.
like, why were you not at least trying to date somebody? Like, again, if you don't want to date, you don't want to date, that's fine. But he literally didn't date because he was pining after somebody who didn't really care. Like, she literally thought they were worst enemies.
I've heard this, like, a variation of this a few times in the last few years, and the more I sit with it, the more I kind of agree with it. It's this idea that the person that's actually, like, good and healthy for you to be in a romantic relationship with is not the person that makes you go head over heels and insane when you think about them. Like, it's not the, like, love at first sight, you can't stop your heart from beating kind of thing. It's the person that you fall in love with slowly. And the reason for that is, like, if your brain starts operating irrationally, that's a fear response. That's not a love response. Like, if your adrenaline is constantly coursing through your body, that is not healthy. That is not a healthy response. But we've told ourselves, society has given us this, like, oh my God, if you can't eat, you can't sleep, you can't think about anything else but this person, that must be love. That's not love.
Yeah.
That's obsession. And more, the more I sit with it, the more I think about the fact that it should, like, real love, like, maybe it can be started with that, right? But if that's all it is, that's not real love. A real love requires, like, a foundation. And, like, his idea that he's in love with her, no.
You barely
You're
know
obsessed
her.
with her.
Well, so
You're obsessed
I follow
with
this
her.
editor, like book editor on TikTok, and she gives, or not, sorry, on Instagram, and she gives all sorts of advice, like how to write scenes. And one of the things that she said about how to write really good romantic novels or romantic plots is it's not the big sweeping moments, it's the little moments that you continue to pepper throughout the book that really give the romance. And I feel like that really comes back to that too. It's like, it's not the big things, it's the little things. It's the little kind of like tiny moments that maybe to other people wouldn't mean anything, but to you is like romantic and fun and cute and sexy and whatever.
They point that out in, if you've ever seen The Good Place.
I have, yeah.
So at one point, it's a great show.
Good show.
I also watched that the last week. I forget that the last season destroys me
I
emotionally.
have not seen the last season.
Emotionally destroyed. I love it, but
Liz,
it's so
get
good.
on
But
that.
there's at one point where she's confronted with the fact that in one of their past moments, they told each other that they loved her and Chidi. And she asks Michael how it happened at one point. And he shows her, and it literally was right before Chidi sneezed, she grabbed a tissue and handed it to him. And he said it was literally just the process of anticipating each other's needs. And I was like, oh, yeah. Like, I've been talking mad shit about the fact that he didn't do anything for 10 years. I'm single as fuck. But that has nothing to do with being obsessed with anybody or anything. That is because people annoy the living shit out of me. And dating is exhausting.
Yeah.
That is the reason.
God, yes.
Well, and it's also
that's our third podcast we could have
Dating's a
is
nightmare.
dating's exhausting, and I don't care to date. I would rather die single
don't know how
than
I fit into
go
that.
on another
I don't know how I
dating
fit
app.
into that podcast other than the person who's just like, oh my god, you have to do that. Ugh.
Yeah. You would be shocked.
I would be, yeah.
I want
The amount of dick pics. Nobody wants them.
No.
you know how like in the 90s there was like what would you do for a Klondike bar? So think about dating as the reverse. What would you rather do? Like, what would you like endure for dick? That's
Like a
what
dick
it
pic or
is.
like sex?
And then
For
your
sex.
tolerance becomes less and less and less. Like that Klondike bar starts to look less and less appealing the older you get.
I'm just like, I'm fine. People annoy I have my people. The people in the world kind of annoy the shit out of me.
And none of them's giving you dick.
Nope. Sure not.
It's not going to change.
It turns out it does not matter. You could be a fucking sex god. If you are a horrible human, I would rather
Yeah, I
die
have to be able to.
than let you touch me.
I have to tolerate you in order to fuck you.
I would just like to go on a date where I don't have to carry the conversation. That would be a really big step
it really
up.
would. It's terrible.
That alone might get you in my pants, right?
I
Like,
think I would be the worst person to date. Because, like, I just assume anytime I interact with anybody, not assume, but, like, my natural response is, how do I get out of this conversation as quickly as possible?
Same.
It is always that.
I mean, not with you guys.
No,
but,
yeah, no, not with friends, but,
Like, I
but,
can,
like, anybody who...
I can talk to you bitches all night. That's why we have such a hard time when we're recording. But yeah, I don't tolerate people enough to be able to handle it. I just can't. I have become
I hate small talk so
do it.
much. I hate it so
Where are
much.
you from? What do you do? When you're...
gross. Like, I literally...
I'm from hell. I'm here to kill you, and I'm taking myself out next. That's where I'm at. That's ugh.
Wiggles.
Oh, my God. Now, if somebody on a date said that to me, I'd be like, okay.
I know, right? There'd be a jumping off
I
point.
can work with that. Okay, back to this book we're supposed to be talking about. this book.
What about this book, though?
I feel bad. I feel like so many podcasts, and I have said this on every single podcast we've recorded, at least the last like 2 or 3, that we bitch about the book, and it's like, I don't want to bitch about the book. Like,
But the thing is, like, I don't.
We
like,
have things we like and things we don't.
Yeah,
what the fuck
like,
have
I
we
just
said we
think
liked
that
about this book?
The writing
narrator
style.
voice? It's true. I do. That is the one thing I like.
I do really like the writing
Yeah.
style. I think that personally, you guys can fight me on this if you want to, but I personally think this is one of the better
I would agree.
written.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
we're talking
I would
language
absolutely agree.
that we've read on any
I
of
would
them.
absolutely agree. This book does have that.
I do enjoy
It
the
flows
characters
so well.
Like, I know we went off a little bit on him, but like,
He just doesn't feel like he's fully fleshed out yet. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like it feels like he's missing something.
but the rest of the characters I really enjoy.
Yeah. All right, cool. We've said enough good shit.
No. I really did like the Madame Curie like little hints dropped in between.
Yeah.
Like I loved those little like history drops in there, and I think it kind of gave you a sense of like where Bee's mental state was at a little bit, because it's clear that she's like almost made Dr. Curie like this essentially not like imaginary friend exactly, but like
It's her idol, essentially. She's completely
yeah, she's like
enamored
this
with her.
touchstone
Yeah.
for her of like where she's at with things, and so I really did like that. I found that really
I
nice.
also really liked
Like-
learning the facts about Marie Curie. There was a lot I didn't know
very
about
good.
her.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's a lot that I really did like about it when I was reading it, and I do really like the trope. And you guys tell me if you agree with this one, but I do, as much as like I didn't like that Levi seemed to be more obsessed than in love. I do like the trope where the guy falls in love
as well, because it
first.
doesn't seem to happen very often.
Same. I do like that, where he's just like, just waiting for you to catch up, girly girl.
Yeah.
Someday you'll be here, and I'll be waiting.
Well, because like every time she was like, well, that's because you hate me. And she thought she was telling the truth. And he was like, what?
What? No.
No, I do. I really just wanted him to be like, I wanted him to freak out on her just a little bit.
That was the one thing, is I was
shake
like,
her a
you
little
could
bit.
just tell her you don't hate her. You don't have to tell her that you are in love with her. You could just say, I don't hate you. Stop it.
I don't hate you. You don't have to explain. Just, I
mean,
don't
think
hate you.
He did try a couple of times, and she wasn't very receptive.
He some kind of
It's
dropped it
true.
a lot, and it was
Yeah.
like, no, just don't drop it. Just freak on her just a little bit for me, please.
Yeah.
Just freak out just a little bit on her.
Also, professionally, you guys are working together, so you have to get along. You should really have like a come to Jesus with each other for a moment.
I mean, yeah.
That was the other thing that bothered me a lot in this book, is like from a professional standpoint, I was just like, nope, that's not how you're supposed to fucking interact. Granted, that's how people interact all the time, so what the
Yes.
fuck do I know?
It's true.
You just need to.
Okay, so now that we have made me feel better about the negativity, and we've talked a little bit about the positivity, is there anything else that you guys wanted to bring up or talk about this book?
I did really like the cat.
Yes, that's what I was gonna bring up. Cats.
On her first day, she sees a cat on a cart in NASA.
How did this cat get in there?
They never explain it, but it's a kitten. It somehow got into a NASA building, and it was up on this cart. So she was up like talking to this kitten, and it jumped off of the cart, and like the boxes that it had been on became unstable and almost fell on her. And the only reason they didn't is because he shoved her up against a wall, which just
Hurrah,
saying.
praise.
Hi. Danny likes to shove against the wall. God, that says a lot about me.
Do love a good shove.
Anyway,
Don't shove me up.
so all this time, she's seen the cat a couple of different times. She's leaving treats in her office, like she left the vent open so that the cat can come and go as she pleases. And he keeps saying that it's her imaginary friend, it's her imaginary cat, and everything. And he goes through the security footage and finds all these like moments of the cat.
Yeah.
And that was one very cute. Like, I'm like,
That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of
That
fucking
is a
work.
lot of work. I will say that's also how she found out that Guy was the one who was coming in and sabotaging.
Yes.
Which, like, we didn't talk about Guy because
He's a dick face and we hate him.
he's the villain. He shows up. He's been sabotaging her the whole time, and then he tries to fucking, like, kill her at the end or have her kill herself or whatever, to sabotage the project because originally he was the lead on the project and now he's not. Blah, blah, blah. Usual fucking privileged white guy bullshit.
Correct.
Which I'm saying isn't
his name
bad.
is literally Guy.
Yeah. Which doesn't mean that it was, like, I don't mean blah, blah, blah was written poorly in the book. I just mean, like, fuck, yeah, you're right. Fucking, yeah.
He was like editing himself out of the security footage.
Yeah, to not get caught, like, sneaking into her office and shit.
Yeah, and when he found all the footage of the cat and gave it to her, that's how she noticed, because there were little snippets right before he got, like, edited out that she noticed things. But yeah, oh my god, I loved that. I was like, that's the cutest gift.
That is, because it takes a lot of fucking work. That
It's a
took
lot
a
of
long
fucking-
time.
it would take a long-
However, I am confused that if he watched all the security footage to find the cat, how come he never saw Guy sneaking into her office? Or maybe he just didn't think anything of it.
Guy was editing himself out of the footage. It was just
he missed one spot.
He missed like one spot of like the door opening, and that her computer was on, and that he didn't think anything of.
Right.
Because her computer, she said she always locked her computer. But yeah, so he literally just went through and like found all the little snippets. But yeah, so and then she like after everything is all fixed and everything, she goes and finds the cat and she's like, "Can we move in?" I'm like, okay, I'm good with them now.
I will say,
Anytime there's a cat
one of the
involved.
things that we have kind of like glossed over or just haven't really talked about is that B is a twin.
He is a twin.
And her twin sister is sort of off gallivanting around the world, essentially. And B and her twin sister lost their parents at a very young age and have had to, like, live with a variety of family members for a while. And so, like, B doesn't really have a home. Right? And one of the things that makes it feel like B's simultaneous resistance to Levi and getting comfortable with him and her like part of what draws her to him is the fact that he kind of feels like he could be a home for her. He could be a home base for her.
And then she gets the tattoo at the end. She has a tattoo of the outline of every country she's ever lived in because her and her sister were bounced around to pretty much all the different places that the author lived. They were bounced around a lot to different family members, and then at the end she gets a like outline of their house with 2 kittens in it.
Yeah, that's cute.
It was cute. I was like, "Aw."
It was really cute. Final like positive note to leave it on is that Levi is really like into the things about B that make her unique, right? Like, it's not just that she's pretty. He likes her tattoos. He likes her piercings. He likes that she dyes her hair. He likes her style. He likes her clothing. Like, one of the arguably shitty things that he can't, like, take back is that one of the statements he says is, "There's a dress code here," right?
Yeah.
Very early on. And it's kind of implied that while yes, he was gotten after by his boss, he also is like, I don't want to be around you when you look like that because you look good. And so I like that there isn't any part of it where it's like, I like you in spite of.
Right.
I like you in totality.
He does apologize for that at one point. Because he's
does.
like, "I yelled at you about a dress code when I literally had a hole in the armpit of my t-shirt."
But yeah, I do really like that because I think even in our romance novels, sometimes you have these romance heroes, right, who are like, I like you, but I would like you better if. And it's like, come on, fuck off with that shit. No one asked.
Right.
No one
No one
asked.
asked.
Fuck off.
Okay.
No.
So, with all of that in mind, what do you guys rate this book? Do we want to start at spice?
Spice for me was probably about a 2. It was not a lot of spice.
I think I put it at a 3. I put it at a 3, but it's like a 2.5, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Romance? What you got?
3.
Yeah, probably also a 3.
3.
So,
Yeah. We've had better. We've
Yeah.
had worse.
So what does it make your overall then?
It's honestly, I think for me, like a 3.5. Because I do really like the narrative. I do really like I really like her personality. I really
Right.
like the way that the book is written overall. There are just a few. I like spicy things, and this wasn't it.
Yeah, I think I also gave it. I mean, I know I gave it a 3 on Goodreads. And it wasn't because of the lack of spice. For me, it was almost like the lack of romance.
Yeah,
Like it just
that
didn't.
too.
I didn't get the butterflies. I didn't get that feeling.
Yeah, I didn't really want to jump his bounds.
I ultimately gave it a 4 on Goodreads because I always round up. For me, it was a 3.5. For me, it was pretty solidly a 4 until the ending, and then the ending just felt very rushed to me. Like it went from we're coasting along working on this project, and then all of a sudden when shit hit the fan, it hit the fan, and we had like 20 pages to get out of there, and I was like, okay, this just like. And I feel like some of that romance could have been built up a little bit better if we had more time to flush it out at the end. You know what I mean?
I would agree.
So for me, it's a 3.5.
Sounds good. So
Okay.
we all kind of agree on that one.
Yeah, it's right around the 3 to 4-ish.
Yeah.
The question that I have is, what books or just what anything would you recommend if somebody liked this or kind of liked what's happening, wanted it same or similar?
I don't know if I have a book recommendation, but I do recommend The Good Place for that. The relationships in The Good Place are really awesome, and it is a lot of having to relearn each other, which I do enjoy a lot. Mm-hmm. Again, the ending will rip your heart out, but that's 4 seasons away, so it's fine.
That's fair. I think I really recommend The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. Not because it's also a science-y based book, but because it has like a lot of semi-enemies to lovers vibe and like forced proximity, having to work together for things. So it kind of has a lot of the same tropes in it.
The most obvious is to read The Love Hypothesis. If you like this, you are going to love The Love Hypothesis. You just will.
All right, folks. Well, I think that's everything. So yeah, if you liked this episode, please find us wherever you're finding us, like, subscribe, I don't know, whatever bullshit people say on the socials these days, and go out to our website at wrongdustjackets.com, find us, follow us on our socials, tell us what you think, tell us what you want us to read, tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like in a nice and constructive way.
Yes. Don't be a troll.
Otherwise, thanks so much, y'all, for listening. We hope you had a good time, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.